Everyone froze when the helicopter landed, but it was the nurse they came for. Welcome to Silent Heroes, a place where the flames of courage never die out, where forgotten bravery is lifted back into the light, and where the stories we tell are not about fame, but about the hearts that refused to break. This is the sanctuary where the quietest warriors stand tall once again. And tonight you're stepping into a night that changed everything. Nurse Emily Carter pushed open the narrow metal door at the back of St. Vincent Regional Hospital, the one staff used when their shifts ended too late for the main lobby. The hinges groaned the way they always did, a tired mechanical sigh that felt perfectly in sync with the heaviness in her bones. It had been one of those days, an endless stream of emergencies bleeding into each other, until she could no longer tell where one story ended and another began. Her hands still smelled faintly of antiseptic, despite the repeated washing, and her shoulders felt carved from stone. She reached up to rub the back of her neck, feeling the heat of tension trapped beneath her skin, and breathed into the cold night air as though it could cleanse the weight of the last 14 hours. The parking lot lay silent under the dim yellow glow of flickering street lamps. The night was unnaturally still, the kind of stillness that presses against your ears and makes you aware of your own heartbeat. A thin mist curled at ground level, drifting like pale ghosts between the rows of parked cars. Emily zipped her coat up to her chin as a sharp Canadian winter wind cut across the pavement. She'd walked out into this parking lot 1,000 times before, but tonight felt different in a way she couldn't explain. An eerie coldness crawling down her spine, as though something unseen had just taken a breath behind her. She paused at the bottom step, clutching her bag with numb fingers. The silence wasn't ordinary. It felt staged, almost rehearsed, as though the world was holding its breath for something. Her instincts, the ones sharpened by years of working in trauma, ICU, ER, whispered that something was wrong. She just didn't know what. Not yet. A soft humming sound trembled through the air, so faint she wondered if she imagined it. She turned her head slightly, scanning the sky, but it was empty. Nothing but the thick black sweep of night and a sliver of moon hanging low like a pale, watchful eye. Then the sound deepened, a vibration, low, rhythmic, growing fast. Her chest tightened. The ground beneath her feet gave the smallest shiver. And before she could even process the sensation, the night ripped open with a violent roar. The wind exploded across the parking lot, whipping her hair into a frenzy and slamming against the cars with a metallic rattle. The mist blew apart like shattered glass as swirling gusts carved through it. The sound intensified into a thunderous chopping whoop, 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 the unmistakable tremor of rotor blades tearing through the sky. Emily froze mid-step, her breath lodged somewhere between her lungs and throat. She knew that sound. Everyone knew that sound. A helicopter. But not a medical helicopter. This one sounded heavier, sharper, more urgent. The hospital doors burst open behind her as staff poured out. Nurses still wearing gloves, doctors in lab coats, security officers with radios pressed to their ears. Their faces reflected the same shock flashing through her veins. People pointed upward, shielding their eyes as the wind intensified, sending loose paper swirling through the air. The sky pulsed with light, blinding white beams slicing through the darkness, sweeping the ground, the cars, the hospital building. The helicopter descended fast, impossibly fast, kicking up debris as its massive shadow swallowed the parking lot whole. Its body was matte black with sharp, angular features, the unmistakable silhouette of a military aircraft, a military helicopter, landing outside a regional hospital at nearly midnight, with no warning. Emily stepped backward instinctively, bracing her hand against her car as the helicopter's landing skids hit the pavement with a violent metallic slam. The rotor wash hammered against her body, pushing her coat flat against her frame and tearing at her breath. People grabbed nearby cars to steady themselves. Someone lost their footing and crashed to the ground. Yet no one dared move closer. And then, suddenly, the noise cut. Not silence, but a suspended, fragile quiet trembling on top of the fading echo. Everyone stood frozen. The helicopter doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss. 3 soldiers jumped out first, fully armed, wearing tactical gear, helmets reflecting the harsh landing lights. Their boots hit the ground with sharp, deliberate thuds. They formed a perimeter instantly, scanning the surroundings with practiced eyes. Behind them came 2 medics, carrying equipment Emily had never seen before. Sleek, heavy cases marked with classified military symbols. No one understood what was happening. No one dared speak. Emily's pulse hammered in her ears. Then suddenly, a 6th figure stepped out. Tall, composed, commanding. A senior ranking officer, his uniform sleeves stamped with insignia she didn't recognize. He raised one gloved hand and pointed directly, not at the hospital doors, not at the security guards, not at the staff gathering in confusion, but at Emily. Her mouth went dry. For a second, she thought she misunderstood, but every head in the parking lot turned toward her in perfect unison, their collective gaze slamming into her like a spotlight. The officer shouted over the dying Woda noise, "Emily Carter, we need you, now." The words didn't just echo, they detonated through the night. Emily felt her stomach free fall. Her legs turned weak. Her grip on her bag slipped for a heartbeat. She couldn't form a single thought. Why her? How did they know her name? How did the military know where she was? And why, of all people, were they looking for a nurse in the parking lot of a small town hospital? A security officer stepped forward. "Sir, what's the meaning of—" The soldier didn't even look at him. "Step aside. She's coming with us." The officer took a breath, glanced at Emily, then back at the soldier, but something in the soldier's tone, something sharp and unyielding, made him step back without another word. Emily felt dozens of eyes burning into her. Colleagues she'd worked with for years, people who'd seen her at her best and at her worst, people who knew her as calm, steady, dependable, ordinary. The nurse who stayed late to comfort a dying man. The nurse who missed her birthday dinner because a child needed her. The nurse who blended into the background without complaint. Ordinary Emily Carter. And yet, they were here for her. The officer took a few steps toward her, boots crunching over the scattered gravel as the wind finally began to settle. He pulled off his helmet, revealing sharp eyes that carried a weight she recognized instantly. The weight of someone who had seen too many things he wished he could forget. "Emily," he said, his voice quieter now, but still edged with urgency. "You need to come with us immediately." She swallowed hard, her throat tightening. I don't understand. Why me? I haven't—" "Yes," he interrupted, his voice slicing through her confusion. "You have. You just don't know it yet." Her breath caught. What did that mean? Behind the officer, one of the medics tapped his shoulder urgently and whispered something too low for her to hear. The officer's jaw tightened. He turned back toward Emily with renewed intensity. "There is no time. This is classified, but listen to me." He paused, as though searching for words that wouldn't crush her. "But you did something in the past that changed everything. Something that affected national security. Something that saved someone who cannot survive tonight without you.
Emily stared at him, her mind whirling violently. "What did I do?" she whispered. The officer didn't blink. "You saved the wrong man." He stepped closer. "Or the right one, depending on how tonight ends." The words hit her like a blow. He motioned toward the helicopter. "Get in, now." Emily looked at the helicopter again. The swirling mist beneath it, the flashing lights reflecting off its metallic surface, the soldiers watching her like she was the center of gravity in this entire operation. Every instinct inside her screamed to run. Every part of her training told her something catastrophic was unfolding. Every beat of her heart whispered that this night, this exact moment, had been waiting for her longer than she realized. She stepped forward, and the world shifted.
The moment Emily stepped into the helicopter, the door slammed shut behind her with a metallic finality that sent a tremor up her spine. The inside was dim, lit only by the dull red glow of tactical lamps lining the ceiling. The rotors thundered overhead as the aircraft lifted off the ground, tilting her backward in her seat, while the world outside dissolved into swirling shadows. She clutched the harness across her chest, feeling her pulse rise in violent, uncontrolled bursts. The soldiers around her sat rigid and silent, their faces carved from stone, their eyes reflecting a storm she wasn't prepared to enter. Emily had transported patients in medical helicopters before, small, cramped, chaotic machines where hope clung to thin lines and oxygen masks. But this felt like being swallowed by something darker, something that didn't wait, didn't negotiate, didn't forgive. Across from her sat the commanding officer, helmet back on, jaw locked so tightly she could see the muscles shifting beneath his skin. He didn't speak. He didn't look at anyone except the medic to his right, who was monitoring a screen displaying data Emily couldn't decipher. Strange symbols, fluctuating lines, a pulsing red indicator blinking with an irregular rhythm. It didn't look like a standard vitals monitor, and the readings didn't look human, at least not in any way she had seen in her career. A chill spread through her chest. Emily leaned forward, her voice trembling despite her attempt to steady it. "Please, tell me what is happening. Who am I supposed to help? And why did you say I changed something? What does that mean?" The officer looked at her, his breathing tight, as though he'd been carrying a secret too heavy for too long. He studied her face with a strange mixture of recognition and disbelief. "You don't remember, do you?" Her brow furrowed. "Remember what?" He exchanged a long, weighted glance with the medic. Then he spoke slowly, choosing each word as though it might explode if mishandled. "A year ago, winter, emergency shift. Do you remember a soldier brought into your trauma bay? Severe shrapnel injuries, collapsed lung, massive blood loss. He had tags, but no name listed." Emily blinked, her mind reaching through fog. "I treated dozens of soldiers that winter. There were multiple training accidents, one helicopter crash, several classified." "This one wasn't an accident," he interrupted sharply. "This one was part of something far bigger." Something clicked faintly in Emily's memory. An image, blurry and fragmented. A stretcher drenched in blood. A young man gasping for air. A medical team standing back waiting for clearance because the soldier was technically off record. She remembered stepping forward anyway. She remembered ignoring the restrictions. She remembered hands soaked red, the frantic pressure on a wound that wouldn't close, and a voice, faint, broken, saying, "Don't let me die, please." Her breath stuttered. I think I remember him, but I didn't know his identity." "You weren't supposed to. His mission was classified. His injuries were classified. Even his name was classified." Emily felt her chest tighten. "Then why tell me now?" The officer leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low, urgent murmur. "Because that soldier, he wasn't just anyone. He was part of an operation critical to national security, a mission that still hasn't ended. And the moment he stabilized, he asked one thing only. The officer's eyes didn't waver. He asked for you. The words hit her so hard she forgot how to breathe for a second. Me? But why? I just treated him like any other patient. I didn't even know his name. The medic beside the officer finally spoke, his voice softer, carrying the weight of something deeply human. You didn't just treat him. You brought him back when everyone thought he was gone. His heart stopped twice. His oxygen levels crashed. He had minutes left. And when he came back, he remembered your voice. He remembered you leaning over him, telling him to stay with you, telling him he wasn't done fighting yet. Emily swallowed hard as the memory sharpened, her hands trembling as she performed compressions, her voice breaking with each plea she whispered into the void, her exhaustion replaced by a desperation she couldn't explain. She didn't know why she had spoken to him like that. She didn't know why she held on to him so fiercely. But she had. And something inside her tightened with a sudden, overwhelming clarity. The officer continued, his voice thickening. That soldier survived because of you. And because he survived, a mission continued, a mission that must not fail. He is not just part of that operation, he is the key to it. The helicopter jolted violently as it banked left, sending Emily gripping the handle above her head. Alarms blipped momentarily before steadying. The medic adjusted a dial on his panel, sweat forming at his temples. Something was happening, something urgent. Emily steadied her breath. What's wrong? The officer's posture stiffened. The soldier's condition is deteriorating. He was stable when we left the base, but the moment we broke radio contact, everything changed. The medic spoke quickly. He's crashing. He's calling out her name repeatedly. Every time he wakes, every time the sedation drops, he asks for Emily Carter. Emily felt as though the air had frozen around her. Me? But why? I just treated him like any other patient. I didn't even know his name. Oh, he knows you, the officer said, his voice rough with a truth she hadn't been prepared for. And he never forgot you, not once, not for a single day after you saved him. Emily's throat tightened. She pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed by a wave of emotion she didn't understand. She had saved hundreds of lives. She had watched some slip away despite everything she gave. But she never imagined that out of all those nights, all those faces, someone had held onto her memory like a lifeline, someone whose survival was bigger than either of them. The officer leaned back, his eyes narrowing as though debating whether to say the next words. Then he said them anyway. That soldier made a request before tonight's mission began. He said if anything happened to him, if he was dying, there was only one person he trusted to bring him back. Emily's heart pounded. Me? Yes, the officer said, because you didn't just save his life, you gave him a reason to keep living it. The helicopter shook again, harder this time. A warning light flashed over the medic screen. Liam's vitals. They were dropping. Fast. The officer grabbed Emily's arm, not roughly, but with the urgency of someone who had run out of time. Emily, Liam is calling for you. Her pulse thundered. He needs you. Her hands shook. And if you don't reach him in the next few minutes... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The helicopter plunged forward into the night. And Emily closed her eyes, not in fear, but because for the first time she understood why she was there. The helicopter shuddered violently as it pierced through the storm-laden night sky. Emily Carter strapped tightly into her seat, heart pounding in rhythm with the thundering rotors. The dim red lights inside the cabin flickered over the faces of the soldiers, grim, unyielding, prepared for a mission that would test every limit of human endurance. Emily gripped the harness, knuckles white, and felt the weight of the unknown pressing down upon her. Every instinct told her to panic, yet a strange clarity settled over her, a singular focus that would not allow fear to dominate. She wasn't just a nurse tonight. She was the fulcrum upon which a delicate balance between life and death, mission success and failure rested. The commanding officer leaned toward her, voice barely audible over the storm of rotor blades. "Emily, we're approaching Base Delta. It's compromised. Critical casualties are overwhelming the medics. The soldier you saved, Liam Hale, is deteriorating faster than anticipated. He's the only one who can initiate the mission. Without him, the operation fails." Emily's breath caught. Her mind reeled at the weight of what she was being told. She had treated countless patients, had stayed late for tragedies she could not fix, but nothing in her life had prepared her for the notion that her hands, her knowledge, her simple acts of care could now hold the fate of hundreds, maybe thousands, in their grasp. She swallowed, willing herself to steady her shaking legs. "Where is he?" she whispered, voice barely audible, trembling despite her attempt at composure. The officer's eyes were steady, sharp with urgency. "He's in the eastern wing, the temporary triage zone. He's barely conscious, and every minute without proper stabilization brings him closer to death. Emily, only you can bring him back. Only you." The helicopter banked sharply, sending Emily lurching into her harness. Outside, lightning forked through the sky, illuminating the ruined landscape of Base Delta. Smoke rose in thick columns from buildings shattered by explosions. Soldiers sprinted across the debris-strewn ground, carrying stretchers, dragging wounded comrades toward makeshift tents. The air was thick with dust, the stench of burning fuel, the metallic tang of blood. And amidst it all, Emily realized the chilling truth. The mission wasn't about a single soldier. It wasn't about territory, medals, or glory. It was about life. Hundreds, maybe thousands of lives depended on her skill, her courage, her hands. The helicopter landed with a violent jolt. The rotors whipped debris around her as soldiers moved swiftly to secure the perimeter. Emily's boots hit the ground, each step sinking slightly into the grit and ash. The chaos pressed in on every side, but she moved forward, guided by a purpose she hadn't known she carried. They reached the triage area where Liam lay on a stretcher, tubes and wires feeding him mechanical breaths, his chest rising and falling in weak, uneven rhythms. His eyes flickered open when she saw her. Recognition shot across his face. Relief, hope, desperation, all tangled in a single raw expression. Emily dropped to her knees beside him, hands already moving with practiced precision. Her fingers traced the lines of monitors, adjusted IV drips, pressed on weak pulses, and spoke to him softly. "Liam, I'm here. You're going to make it. Stay with me. Please stay with me." She repeated it over and over, each word a lifeline, each breath a tether pulling him back from the edge. Around them, the base erupted in controlled chaos. Explosions shook the ground. Screams of the injured pierced the storm. Soldiers barked orders. Medics yelled instructions. Yet in that moment, time collapsed around Emily and Liam. The world narrowed to the space between their breathing, the delicate thread connecting life and death. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Emily's hands moved tirelessly, her mind racing, her heart hammering. She felt Liam's grip slacken and then tighten, weakly, as if testing her resolve. She whispered encouragement, pleaded with him to hold on, and something extraordinary happened. He responded. His vitals stabilized, just enough for the mission to move forward. His eyes locked with hers, wide, haunted, and full of gratitude, and he whispered, "I remember you. Everything you did for me. Saved me. Saved everything." Emily's heart clenched. She realized the weight of the truth. One simple decision she had made months ago, to ignore protocol, to save a life when no one else could, had created a chain reaction. That single act had ensured that Liam would live, that he could complete the mission, that the lives of countless innocent people hung by a thread she had unknowingly sewn together. And now, here she was, an ordinary nurse,
holding extraordinary responsibility, feeling the magnitude of her actions for the first time. She rose, breathing ragged, and followed Liam and the team into the command center. Screens flashed with critical intel, maps marked with red zones, evacuation routes, and casualty estimates. The room hummed with tension, orders shouted over radios, yet Emily's presence carried an unmistakable gravity. She moved to Liam's side, stabilizing him, reading his vitals, administering what the medics and soldiers could not. Slowly, deliberately, methodically, she became the linchpin. The mission could not begin until he was ready, until she had done her work. Hours passed in a blur. Lightning illuminated the night sky intermittently, thunder vibrating through the walls of the temporary command post. Explosions echoed in the distance. Injured soldiers screamed. Civilians cried. The world seemed to be crumbling. And yet Emily remained, hands never still, hearts never wavering. Every movement precise, every decision critical. And through it all, she realized the unthinkable. The life she had saved months ago, the quiet act of compassion she had considered routine, had now placed her in the most pivotal moment of her life. Finally, Liam's breathing evened, color returned to his face, and he opened his eyes, weakly but consciously. He looked at Emily, pain etched into every line of his face, and spoke, voice trembling with awe and disbelief. "Emily, your choice, the night you saved me. You didn't just save me. You saved everything. Our mission, our country, people we may never even see. You changed it all." Emily's heart clenched. She realized the weight of the truth. One simple decision she had made months ago, to ignore protocol, to save a life when no one else could, had created a chain reaction. That single act had ensured that Liam would live, that he could complete the mission, that the lives of countless innocent people hung by a thread she had unknowingly sewn together. And now, here she was, an ordinary nurse, holding extraordinary responsibility, feeling the magnitude of her actions for the first time. She rose, breathing ragged, and followed Liam and the team into the command center. Screens flashed with critical intel, maps marked with red zones, evacuation routes, and casualty estimates. The room hummed with tension. Orders shouted over radios. Yet Emily's presence carried an unmistakable gravity. She moved to Liam's side, stabilizing him, reading his vitals, administering what the medics and soldiers could not. Slowly, deliberately, methodically, she became the linchpin. The mission could not begin until he was ready, until she had done her work. Hours passed in a blur. Lightning illuminated the night sky intermittently, thunder vibrating through the walls of the temporary command post. Explosions echoed in the distance. Injured soldiers screamed. Civilians cried. The world seemed to be crumbling. And yet, Emily remained, hands never still, hearts never wavering. Every movement precise, every decision critical. And through it all, she realized the unthinkable. The life she had saved months ago, the quiet act of compassion she had considered routine, had now placed her in the most pivotal moment of her life. Finally, Liam's breathing evened, color returned to his face, and he opened his eyes, weakly but consciously. He looked at Emily, pain etched into every line of his face, and spoke, voice trembling with awe and disbelief. "Emily, your choice, the night you saved me. You didn't just save me. You saved everything. Our mission, our country, people we may never even see. You changed it all." Tears stung Emily's eyes. She had spent her life thinking she was ordinary, her work unnoticed, her days filled with repetitive tasks and unremarkable sacrifices. Yet, here, in the storm of chaos, death, and desperation, she realized the unshakable truth. Even one person, even one act of courage can alter the fate of countless lives. The weight of her actions pressed down on her, not as a burden, but as a profound acknowledgement of purpose. The mission commenced. Liam, now stabilized, took the lead under Emily's guidance. Soldiers moved out, civilians were evacuated, and the storm of destruction slowly began to give way to calculated rescue operations. Emily watched, heart in her throat, as her hands ensured the mission's pivot. The lives of many now resting on the choices she had made and the care she had provided. When the final evac cleared, the storm subsided slightly, and silence began to settle over the base. Liam turned to her, supporting himself with the frame of the stretcher, his eyes glistening with gratitude and an unspoken bond. "Emily, you didn't know, did you? That night, you didn't just save me. You saved an entire mission. You saved thousands." Emily's chest swelled, but she whispered softly, almost in disbelief. I was just doing my job." Liam smiled faintly, shaking his head. "No, you were doing more than your job. You were being a hero. If my work has made even a fraction of these hero stories come alive for you, if this narrative touched your heart or opened your eyes to courage you never saw before, then I humbly ask you to subscribe to Silent Heroes and hit that like button. Every comment, every share, every word of encouragement helps me lift these forgotten warriors into the light they deserve. Today, we bid farewell, but remember, there are countless more stories of bravery, sacrifice, and resilience waiting to be told. Stay safe, stay kind, and keep the flame of humanity alive. Until next time, from all of us at Silent Heroes, thank you, stay well, stay heroic, and never forget the ones who risk everything so others may live.